Alright, gunfighters. Time for some tough love. Time for me to pee in your Cheerios. Time for me to put some sand in your underwear. Give you a tactical wedgie of reality. However you want to put that. That's today's topic. With that, I'm going to put in the bio, because why should you care what I have to say? Not because I have a microphone, not because I'm on the internet. Then we'll get into the topic. Blessed to have served in the military, law enforcement, combat veteran, private contractor, competition shooter, lifelong hunter, guide. Blessed by God that He got me through all those things so I could share this firsthand training, knowledge, experience with you to serve you today. Let's dive into the podcast. The podcast where we talk about guns, gunfighting, tactics, ballistics, all manner of things the right way with Almighty God at the center, Judeo-Christian values, and real-world first-hand experience. Now, today's a tough love episode. I think today's culture and society has a skewed view of what love is. Love is not telling somebody what they want to hear all the time. Love is not agreeing with somebody all the time, especially if they need to be told the truth. It's not giving somebody what they want all the time. If I love somebody who's a heroin addict and they really, really want heroin, as a good friend, as a loving person, I don't give them heroin because that's what they want. Give them what's good for them. Today's a tough love episode. Hopefully you get that. And maybe none of this applies to you. Maybe you're checking all these boxes and you know this stuff. And you know, many people along the way, by God's grace, taught me. I didn't pop out of my mom's womb a professional gunfighter or winning shooting competitions or being a really good hunter or any of that stuff. So keep that in mind too. What do I have that I did not first receive? Alright, let's get you from being a tactical poser. It's a common vernacular when I was in high school. Don't be a poser, man. Don't be a tactical poser. Don't be the kid that's walking around with a skateboard and all the skateboarding gear and skateboarding shirt and you can't skateboard your way out of a wet paper bag. Don't be that with gunfighting either. Go from being a poser to being an actually effective wielder of a firearm. Wearing a purple jumpsuit does not make you an eggplant. Having a sweet guitar does not make you a rock star. Having a gun does not make you a gunfighter. Drinking Black Rifle coffee, and there's nothing wrong with Black Rifle coffee, but that doesn't make you an effective gunfighter. Having some cool, tactical slogan on your t-shirt with an American flag patch on it does not increase your effectiveness with a firearm. I'm not saying you should or shouldn't wear that stuff. If you want to spend your money on that stuff, that's fine, but that has no effect on how good you shoot. Right? If you show me some 22-year-old, purple-haired, nose-ringed, liberal arts degree barista, and she's willing to actually learn and take lessons, I could make her an effective shooter, an effective gunfighter, if she's got the mentality for it. Some things you can't train. And she could be more effective in a fight. She could outshoot the man with all the tactical gear and the line of name brand tactical bumper stickers on their back glass, and drinking out of the coolest tactical coffee mug and the coolest tactical shirt with the American flag patch. That doesn't make him a good shooter. Heck, he could even have the best, most tactical, tricked out gun. It's not how that works. Now, maybe there's guys like that are really, really good shooters, but that has nothing to do with it. Another real common mistake, misconception, whatever you want to call it. You're not going to hit the target just because you really, really want to. Because you really, really want to hit the target. Because you really, really want to do good. Because you really, really don't want to get shot in the face. You really, really want to be fast and accurate. You really want to look good in front of your buddies, whatever it is. That target could not care less how you feel. It has no idea how you feel. That's one of the reasons I love shooting. It's honest. that steel plate, that paper target, it does not care whether you're having a good day or a bad day. You really, really want to hit the target. You really, really want to shoot good, right? The shot timer is not like, oh, you really want to shoot fast today. I'm gonna make your times better. It doesn't work like that. Passion in shooting is great if you buckle down and apply it to consistent training. But if you just show up one day and really, really want to shoot fast and really, really want to be accurate, and you haven't spent the time, blood, sweat, and tears on the fundamentals, the target doesn't care. Doesn't care how much you want it. Want and desire and passion without action is kind of pointless. Again, if you couple that passion, that desire with consistently doing the things, consistently dry firing, consistently training, consistently going to training classes, going to competitions, those things, if you apply your passion that way and use your talents and mold them that way, that's fine. But you just simply wanting something and not doing anything about it does not make you a better shooter either. Here's a big one. Not so much the gun adjacent stuff which we touched on, like the bumper stickers or the cool t-shirt with the American flag patch and the crossed rifles on your shirt. There's nothing good or bad about that, but it's not going to make you a better shooter. But here's a big one, I think, especially in Western society and affluent America and many other places. Stuff doesn't equal proficiency. Let me put it to you this way. If you're whatever age you were when you started learning how to drive, 13, 14, 15, 16, or later, when you were first learning how to drive, did it matter if it was an old beat-up pickup truck with rust all over it or a Ferrari? The first time you sat behind the wheel and not just steering for your parents, like sitting on the lap or whatever, I'm talking about like you actually sat in the seat yourself and worked all the controls. Did it really matter what kind of car that was? No, because you were just figuring out how to drive. Some guns are better than others. Some guns are way better than others. Some guns are kind of a handicap. Glock. Some guns tend to break and malfunction, like Springfield Armory handguns. But that's all kind of a moot point if you don't have any actual training and experience. If you're the person that just goes to the range, like let's say an indoor range, and puts up a paper target and picks a gun up off a table, you're in that sitting behind the wheel and just figuring it out stage. You buying cooler stuff and doing the same thing, going to the range once a year, twice a year, once a month, and doing the same thing, picking the gun up off the table, bang. 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 And not challenging yourself. That drill right there could be a challenge if you're every time, let's say, pushing the target farther and farther back. 15 yards, 20 yards, 25 yards, 35 yards, 50 yards. And getting good consistent hits. And challenging yourself that way, that's fine. But if you're just going through the motions, I hit this silhouette target at 5 yards. Right, whatever gun you have is almost completely irrelevant. Getting cooler stuff, getting the coolest, fastest mag pouch, probably a little help to you if you're not good at mag changes. And again, tough love, but I mean, think about that. If you have the disposable income and you want cool new guns all the time, that's fine. But I would submit unless there's something crazy wrong with that gun or something, let's say you have a good AR-15, Smith & Wesson M&P, a Ruger, even a bare bones one, and you haven't put at least hundreds and hundreds of reps on that thing in challenging ways, you probably don't need a new, cooler AR-15. You probably need to take a class or go to a competition or push yourself somehow. I don't care if it's, getting the Art of the Tactical Carbine, the old Magpul DVDs, if those are still even around or you can watch those. Doing all that stuff. Like, whatever it is, if you're not doing that kind of stuff, you probably don't need a cooler Daniel Defense AR-15 with a bunch of widgets on it. You probably need to run that gun if you actually want to be effective and not just have cool-looking stuff. that fallacy that just cooler stuff equals more proficient. Not always. You'd be better off keeping that AR, again, unless there's something crazy wrong with it, like it's a Springfield AR and it just malfunctions all the time. Unless there's something actually wrong with that AR, you're probably better off spending the money on a training class and or ammunition and running that gun good. And once you run that gun good, and you're like, you know what, I'm shooting really good with this, and when I drop down in the prone, I can outshoot this rifle. Maybe now I want to get a free-floated handguard. Okay, that's fine. That's great. But if you can't shoot a group to begin with, the free-float barrel, spend the money on ammo and learn how to shoot a tight group. Going back to that guitar analogy, I don't play guitar, but it's going to sound better with the guy that went and bought his beat-up acoustic second-hand guitar with a bunch of gouges and scratches in it at a second-hand store and practices with it all the time than the guy who's got the brand-new polished Fender Stratocaster with the cool amp, and I don't know much about guitars, and all the cool stuff, the best chords, the best strings, and never picks it up and plays it. Is what that guy needs a better guitar? No, probably not. You probably need to learn to work with what you got. Then at some point, you would benefit from a better guitar. You get the idea there. Now, I grew up a poor boy in the South, and I left when I was young. Joined the Marine Corps at 17, and I have lost most of my accent. But we had, there still is a saying, in the rural South, it's used to could. It's kind of, you say it all as one word, used to could. Used to could go and fish in that pond, but now there's a fence around it and a no trespassing sign. Used to could. Used to could doesn't matter if you get in a gunfight today. It doesn't matter how good you were 10 years ago, unless you just want to polish your trophies. It matters how good you are the day you get in the next gunfight. Used to could doesn't really matter. Shooting, especially handgun shooting, is a perishable skill. How good are you cold? How good are you right now? Because used to could doesn't really matter. The guy that pulls the gun on you in a dark alley, even if you're a multi-state champion shooter, he doesn't know that. He doesn't care, and it doesn't matter if you're not still proficient. How good are you right now? I've known guys with quite a high degree, especially compared to most people, of handgun shooting training, proficiency, a lot of rounds downrange, and they haven't shot in a while. I'm talking maybe a couple of years, and they need to work on some stuff because it's a perishable skill. Used to could don't matter. Remember going back to the target doesn't care how you feel? Target doesn't care about used to could. Target cares about where that front sight is when you press that trigger. Target cares about how good your trigger press is today. The clang of those steel targets and the numbers on the shot timer care about how good your grip and your natural point of aim and your trigger control are today. They don't care about how good it was 20 years ago. Used to could don't matter. That might matter to you in your past, you might be proud of it, but if you get in a fight today, used to could does not equal today I can. Another big fallacy is, well, this person can, as if that means that you can. And I'm all about looking to people and looking to examples that are good examples to learn how to shoot. If I want to learn how to shoot a revolver fast, looking at how Jerry Michalek, I may be mispronouncing his name, Jerry Michalek, he's been around a long time. He shoots a revolver, I believe, faster than any man alive. If I want to learn how to shoot a revolver fast, I should probably look at what he's doing and emulate that. And unless there's some reason to deviate from it, that's a good place to look at how to shoot a revolver fast. But just because he can doesn't mean that you can. If he can reload a revolver in under a second, that doesn't mean that you can do it, unless you can actually do it. If you get into some violent altercation with a revolver, the fact that Jerry Michalek can reload a revolver in under a second and get back in the fight, unless he's there in the alley with you and you hand him your gun and he reloads it for you, that's a moot point because somebody else can do it. The fact that there's plenty of, fairly petite, really good USPSA shooters that shoot, 45 1911s and control recoil really well. That doesn't mean that you can do it. You're like, well, this person's smaller than me and they control recoil really well. It's largely due to the repetitions they have on it and the fact that they practice and train with it. The fact that they can do it doesn't mean that you can do it. Even if you got the same gun, even if you got the same belt, you got the same long-range rifle, the fact that somebody else can do it doesn't mean that you can do it. That's a big, I think, fantasy people have. Well, this person can do it. What's that got to do with you? It's like saying Michael Jordan has these shoes and this basketball and he can dunk a basketball. I tell you what, you give me those shoes and that basketball and I can't dunk a basketball. Right? Just the fact that he can do it doesn't mean that I can do it. So the fact that somebody else can may or may not be relevant to you at all. Another one is the number of guns that you have somehow makes a difference. It doesn't really. Define have. Because again, you get in a fight in a dark alley, what you have on you is what matters. The gun in your safe may as well be on the moon for all you're concerned. You know, if you have a Ruger LCP in your pocket that day because you didn't want to carry a bigger gun, and you get in a fight in a dark alley, you have the Ruger LCP. You could have an M60 machine gun in your safe at home, but again, it might as well be on the moon. You could have a whole rack of John Wick handguns at home, but you don't have it then. You don't have it when you need it. The fact you have a bunch of guns doesn't really matter. It matters what gun you have and that you can run it at the time when you need to run it. Going back to the analogy of the two men with the guitars. That young man that bought that acoustic guitar secondhand and played it so much, he went through a bunch of strings on it and he finally saved up and got a secondhand used Fender Stratocaster. Meanwhile, the other guy's been making money and throw it in the bank. It's got a ton of disposable income and he's got a line of Fender Stratocasters. Different colors, special editions, but he doesn't really practice. He just, would rather watch Netflix and eat Doritos and drink Diet Coke. You put both of them up on a stage. Does it matter how many Fender Stratocasters the rich kid has at home? No, not really. It matters how good he can play the one he has in his hands. It's good to have a good battery of guns, and I've done whole episodes on what that should be, but a good fighting handgun, a good serviceable shotgun, a carbine, a centerfire hunting rifle if you want to get into hunting, a 22 handgun, a 22 rifle for training. But if you have one Ruger 1022 and you train with it all the time, you're better than the guy that has 5 different Ruger 1022s in all different configurations that doesn't train with it. So, you should have a good battery of guns, yes, but what do you have on you? What do you have available to you? If you have the nicest, carbine in the world, Daniel Defense, I'm not saying that's the best one in the world, it's just a really good one. Daniel Defense Mark 18 with all the bells and whistles on it, and it's not in the back of your truck and it's at home, and you get stuck in the city at work, civil unrest, riots, whatever, again, that gun may as well be on the moon because it's irrelevant to you. You could have a whole line of Daniel Defense Mark 18s. You could have a whole safe full of Daniel Defense Mark 18s. If you don't have one within arm's reach, within sprinting distance, I would submit to you it's pretty much useless to you because you don't have it when you need it. So the number of guns you have. If you want to collect guns, that's great. This is not gun collector life. This is gun fighter life. If you think that, though, I've got a 16-inch really good AR, but I want a really good AR for CQB. I'm going to get me one of these shorty ARs, 10.5 inch, 300 blackout, the best optics and all that. Okay, U.S. Marines, I was an urban warfare instructor for the United States Marine Corps. Marines kick down doors and are some of the best urban war fighters on the planet, right? They're well respected. They get a lot of reps, at least they did during GWAT, for kicking in doors and putting bullets into bad guys. They do that all day long with M16A4s with 20-inch heavy barrels and 4-power ACOGs or iron sights. I started with iron sights. When I left, we had ACOGs. Nobody will tell you that's a great CQB setup. But Marines are great at it. And it's not because they have the tailor-made best gear for the job. It's because they actually do it. If you think you want to be effective at CQB, go take some classes where you learn urban warfare, where you learn slicing the pie, where you learn different techniques, where you learn to work in a team, where you learn angles, cover and concealment, how to not get shot in the face. That's more important with whatever AR you have now than instead of spending that money on training, you buy the cool 10.5, 300 blackout and don't have any urban warfare training. The fact that you have that rifle does not make you effective at urban warfare. To be fair, it makes you a guy with a cool gun, but that doesn't equal proficiency. Even if you buy 2 of them, that doesn't make you twice as effective. That's not how survival math works. So, and I know you guys probably know this, but I think we fall into the trap, especially as Westerners, to try and buy our way out of a problem. Have you had enough sand in your underwear yet? I think I've beaten some horses to death and beyond in this episode. Hey guys, I appreciate you if you keep up with the goings-on of this podcast. I am currently working 2 jobs. I've been digging into savings for years trying to do the podcast, and I had to take a little bit of a step back from this and go back to professional gunfighting. Have gun will travel, private contractor, gun for hire, whatever you want to call it. So I'm doing that too, so you'll get less of the new content if you haven't noticed. I was doing more or less an episode a day on weekdays. And a lot of podcasts do an episode a week. Still trying to get out fresh content, but you may not get it as often. Please be patient with me. Anyway, if you value this content, even though it was a tough love episode and I may have made some people angry, if you value that, somebody standing up and telling you what's actually going to benefit you instead of saying, I'm sponsored by ABC Widget Company. If you buy ABC Widget, you're going to be deadly. Girls are going to want you and guys are going to want to be you. It's going to make you 6 inches taller and make your breath smell like roses. I'm not that dude, right? That's not what you get here. There's a lot of bought and paid for content that people take money from companies to push their products. Right? I'm not a gun drug dealer. I'm not here to do that. I'm here to give you useful information and sometimes shake you up a bit if you need it. If you appreciate that, even though you may not like it, and you want to support the podcast, consider becoming a patron. There should be a Patreon link in the show notes. It would be a blessing to me. With that, your tactical tip of the day. You ever trying to be super secret squirrel, quiet, sliding across the ground like a stick of butter in a hot skillet, and you hear this squeak, squeak, squeak of your sling in its attachment point, whether it's an old sling swivel stud or something else. You hear a squeak, squeak. It may look high speed and tactical because you got all the cool gear and the cool sling and the cool attachment points. But you know what's not cool? Getting shot because you gave away your position. Anyway, tactical tip for that, just simple rubber bands. It doesn't work on every system, but sometimes you can just wrap a rubber band a couple of times around that, and it will stop that squeak. It will slow down that metal on metal squeak. Sometimes you just need a drop of oil or something, but sometimes that rubber band is a good tip to put on there. That's your tactical tip of the day. Your tactical verse of the day. It is God who arms me with strength and makes my way perfect. You make my feet like the feet of a deer and set me on high places. You teach my hands to make war so that my arms can bend a bow of bronze. A couple of more verses it reminds me of. Exodus 15, the Lord is a man of war. You want to learn to be a man of war? What could be a better example than Almighty God in all things for you in your life? There's many examples of righteous warriors in the Bible. Good case studies. So we've talked about, you want to be good at something? Go to somebody who's good at it. The best at everything is Almighty God. The Lord is a man of war, Exodus 15. Psalm 144, it's not the tactical verse of the day, but blessed be the Lord my rock, who trains my hands for war and my fingers for battle. What do you have that you did not first receive? Everything you have is a gift from God. The fact that you can draw a breath, that your heart beats one more time, that's a gift from God. Every talent, every skill, every ability, self-discipline, that's all a gift from God. Different way to look at it. Shooting skill, tactical skill, strength. stress management, all the skills that tie into being effective in the field. Those are all gifts. Make sure to thank the giver and go to the giver. Thanks for listening, and have a blessed day.